it's in your best interest to work with that employee because a lot of employees, I mean, are valuable people. Look at me, I was managing partner of my law firm. I was involved in every aspect of the company.
Right.
I brought in a lot of business, and that's true for other businesses locally and nationally. Your best assets are your workers, your
Right.
employees, the people you hire.
Right.
You're investing in them.
What does it mean to plant your flag? It means you're not afraid.
It means you're passionate about what you do.
It means you're here to serve others,
In business, in life,
in good and bad.
you aren't afraid to fly your colors proudly because you know
You serve a greater purpose. This is the Plant Your Flag podcast with Mike Bean.
and Jeremy Mountain.
Everyone, welcome back to another episode of Plant Your Flag here with Bean Media. I'm Mike Bean. We're so fortunate to be joined by another fantastic guest. His name's Dan Lukasik. He's the founder of the newly launched Buffalo Depression Project. Like I said, a friend and a colleague who's really helped me understand, more about depression. And it started with me editing his first documentary, which really opened my eyes, and it was striking. And I felt that at the time that pressure was what was keeping me on my toes. But then it also, it made me realize that there was other things that would be a negative aspect of it. But Dan is a filmmaker. He's a professional speaker. He, has been an attorney and an advocate for mental wellness for how long?
25 years.
25 years. He's been a managing partner of law firms, is now the Judicial Wellness Coordinator for the New York State Office of Court Administration, and also an adjunct professor, right?
Yeah, at the University of Buffalo Law School.
Yes.
I teach a class to 50 law students on mental health and well-being in the legal profession.
And I'm just thrilled to have you here.
Thanks,
and
Mike.
I would love to just get started with the first question that we typically ask is, what gave you that drive to plant that flag and be that ambassador for mental wellness and depression?
Yeah, well, about 25 years ago when I was 40, I was the managing partner at my law firm. It's a litigation law firm. And, at that time, my life took a real different direction. I was diagnosed with major depression. I was going through a very difficult time where I was sad all the time. I was tired all the time. But I didn't communicate it to anybody. First of all, because I didn't understand what was happening to me. I thought it was maybe just too much stress or burnout. But it was really very different than that because in the past, I'd bounced back from those kinds of things, went to therapy for a few months, and I was my old self. Well, with major depression, you don't bounce back. You're not your usual self. So where the rubber met the road was as time went on, I couldn't function anymore. I couldn't do my job as a lawyer. And that's when I sought out help, which I got in the form of a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And, as I began to recover, I experienced stigma myself from other people, and that hurt a lot. And I think maybe we don't always think of it this way, or I didn't at the time. One of the toughest aspects of living with depression, or you could say any mental illness, is loneliness. You feel ashamed of what you're going through. You feel like, why can't I figure this out? Why can't I fix myself? But you can't on your own. So I said to myself at some point, if I ever survive this, I'm going to go out and help other people so they don't feel lonely. And that's began my journey.
And you've taken so many avenues through your journey. And like I mentioned, I met you because of editing a film. And you've had a a few since, and actually one that's going to be airing on PBS this weekend, correct?
That's correct. It's airing on PBS this Sunday afternoon, and it's called Travels with George, A Journey Through Depression, Connection, and Friendship. And it really directly confronts that issue of loneliness. The film is about this really remarkable relationship I made about 10 years ago. I was going through an episode of depression, and I had therapy, I had medication, but that always doesn't work. It's not always a roadblock to prevent depression from happening. And a friend of mine said, why don't you go to volunteer at St. Luke's Mission, which is on the east side of Buffalo. It's one of the most segregated cities in America, and the mission is located in one of the most impoverished sections of the city, heavily populated by Black folks, Latinos, and immigrants. So I went there, spoke to the director of the mission, Amy Betros, and said, I don't even know completely why I'm here, but I'd like to be of help of some kind. And she said, well, we have this 9-year-old child named George who doesn't have a dad. His dad left when he was born, and he could use a mentor. And I said, okay. So we started to do that. I started having once a week lunch or dinner with George, who comes from an African-American family on the east side. And, in the beginning, it didn't go so well.
Really?
Yeah, at the beginning, he didn't really.
So he was just was resistant to
Yes.
having you stepping into his life as
Exactly.
a mentor or a friend.
And he talks about that in the film.
Yeah.
So it's really an incredible journey. And in the film, besides myself and George, who's a one in a million, amazing person, is his mother, Georgette, one of the missionaries there, Catholic missionaries, who is George's godmother, is in the film. And finally, the director and founder of Compeer, which is an organization, national organization headquartered in Buffalo, which pairs people with mental illness with mentors. So they're all in the film. It premiered at the University of Buffalo Arts Center in October in recognition of National Depression Awareness Month, and we had a sold-out group audience. And then now it's on PBS.
That's fantastic. How did you get it from? This isn't the first documentary that's been on PBS, correct?
That's correct. Another turn, I guess, in my life, Mike, was I had a younger brother who lived with bipolar disorder. His name was Paul.
I met Paul. He was a great man.
He was a great guy, and bipolar disorder is a form of depression. Depression can take many different forms. Maybe we've heard, some people think of seasonal affective disorder, or they think of other manifestations of depression. Bipolar disorder is a rough thing to be diagnosed with, and he's 3 years younger than me. So actually 3 years ago was the anniversary of his death a few days ago.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And when he passed away, it was a really rough ride for me. We were very, very close. I come from a family of 5, and we were the 4th and 5th, so we were really play partners and grew up together. And so really what happened is about 2 years ago, I was trying to write an article for the Buffalo News about our relationship, and I just couldn't seem to find the words to do it. And, then I was looking at, maybe I'll make a little video on my cell phone.
Sure.
And then total coincidence, there's a local photographer named Mark Dallas, who I've worked with before. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, what I was doing, trying to write a story. He goes, "You should meet my son. He's moving back from New Mexico." I go, sure, I thought he meant welcoming him back to Buffalo, but he said, no, he's a filmmaker, and you should talk to him about doing a film about you and your brother. So I really put very little to no stock in it. And a few weeks later, I met his son at Starbucks for coffee, and I told him the story. And I said, listen, man, I don't have the kind of money to pay an independent filmmaker to do this, but thanks for listening. I actually bought him coffee. So he listened, and he said, listen, Dan, I'm a storyteller, and I want to tell this story. And then we're off to the races. Then other organizations got involved. A very wealthy local philanthropist, Patrick Lee from the Patrick Lee Foundation, got involved and hired a marketing team and a media coordinator and paid to rent out the UB Center for the Arts. And then it got picked up by PBS. So it really was an amazing experience where it just seemed like people that were supposed to help dropped out of the sky and got involved in the project.
Isn't that amazing how that can happen?
It really
Sometimes
is.
something just feels like it was a fit.
It really, really feels that way. And this fall, I showed the film at the National Alliance for Mental Illness Conference in New York State. And it's going to be shown at the national conference in Atlanta, Georgia in May. And every time I'm invited to show the film and talk about my brother and mental illness, I show up because, it's not only, first of all, it's a film anybody can understand. It's a universal story about the love between two brothers who both happen to have mental illness. Me with depression, he with bipolar disorder, and my attempts to save him over our lifetimes. And then about when he died 3 years ago, I got a phone call, and they said, this is the Lackawanna Police Department. I have terrible news to tell you. Your brother was found dead in a La Quinta motel in Lackawanna. And it was just devastating. And so
I mean, I can kind of tell that it just you rethinking it kind of brought you back to that moment a little bit.
Well, actually, I didn't really talk about it with anybody, but yesterday I was kind of in a deep depression. I don't feel that way today, but that's how depression can be. But a lot of it was triggered by the grief of losing my brother 3 years ago. And my brother died of a fentanyl overdose in this motel room by himself. And I think so commonly with significant mental illness, you find drug use, alcohol use, other kinds of things, because they're basically trying to shut down the pain. It's a way of trying to manage the pain of mental illness and depression.
Like it being a coping mechanism, and it seems like it's all too frequent that these kind of things happen. And I would imagine that has to be one of the catalysts that drives you towards doing what you're doing for a greater good. Being an attorney in the past and being a partner at a law firm, you had to, take a leap in some financially to say, I'm going to leave that and I'm going to do what I feel good about. How hard was that?
It was very hard because, sometimes when you take leaps in life, maybe lots of times, you don't know where you're going to land or what the other side looks like.
Yeah.
So when I did this, I didn't know what would happen. And but it just seems as if, looking back on it now, when I needed something to appear in front of me, a light or guidance, it did. And, the premiere of the film, My Brother Lost in Time at UB, I was standing at the back of the theater, and it was full of people. And I was saying to myself, yeah, I can't go through with this. I just can't. It was overwhelming emotionally. And what happened is I had my hand in my pocket, and nobody knew that, but I was holding my brother's hand who died. And the night before, I had this powerful, vivid dream where I was laying in bed, and all of a sudden, my brother physically was next to me, but he was a small child. I was a 5-year-old, and he rolled over on me and cuddled with me, and it was just such a powerful experience that on the premiere day, I felt like he was with me.
That's incredible. We actually, I don't know if you saw the episode where we had a therapist who was actually a medium and a psychic, and he brought tears to my eyes because he had mentioned people that were surrounding me that he could see around. So is it something that you
Absolutely.
believe in? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've never had it. I have dreams like everybody, but I never had a dream
That vivid.
It was almost like a waking dream.
Yeah.
And it was and I never had it again,
Right.
since then. But it was like a dream where my brother was with me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going through it alone. I wasn't at that theater alone. And I wanted people to know it's really like a love letter or a love film to my brother and his memory that, he wasn't some drug addict or, mental ill, quote unquote, loser. He was a brilliant person, and he was also a person who loved a lot of people and people who loved him who happened to have bipolar disorder. So it's really my memories of our times together growing up. And the whole process really helped me a lot with my grieving.
Sure. And now, would you say that what you saw him going through and what you've gone through, was that the catalyst that has driven you to like make all
Yes.
these moves, all these connections?
Yes.
We've talked about how you work with mental health advocates and Compeer and all of these other organizations. Who do you think was most significant in making you take that leap to say, I'm leaving this other career to do my own thing?
I once heard this great line by Bruce Springsteen. I don't know. I think it was in an interview, not in
I'm
a
a
song.
sucker for lyrics. Yeah.
He had a great line. He himself, who has depression, actually.
Really?
Bruce
I didn't know
Springsteen.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
A lot of artists do.
A lot of artists do.
Yeah.
And he said, at some point in life, you have to stop thinking about the person you want to be and be the person you want to be. And I just felt such a powerful call to do this work. It's really my life's work. I mean, I was an attorney for 30 years, and I'm proud of a lot of things I did there too. But I've just connected. It's been such a rich part of my journey, connecting with people not only in Western New York, but around the country on the topic of depression. So that relationship with my brother, going all the way back to our childhood, is still with me and still sustains me to try to help and connect with other people.
Do you think that the stress of being, because you were a litigating attorney, correct?
Yes, trial lawyer.
Trial lawyer. So do you feel like the stress of that added to your depression?
Yeah, I do. And it's interesting that lawyers have 4 times the depression rate than the general population. So not just trial lawyers, but any kind of lawyers, lawyers who do wills and estates, lawyers who do corporate law. So that's a lot of people who have that. So when I talk about my own causes or why did depression happen to me, I call it like the perfect storm. So genetics, depression runs in my alcoholism, mental illness, run in my family. My dad was an alcoholic who died of alcoholism when he was 56, who I'm sure struggled with either depression or bipolar disorder. A history of trauma is a significant risk factor for mental illness, adult onset depression. My dad, as I said, was an alcoholic, but he was an abusive alcoholic, physically and emotionally. And then I think the next factor is the stress, high stress of being a lawyer. And together those three things combine to create a perfect storm where depression struck me at 40.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like, the time where life starts to get real, a lot harder.
Exactly.
Right?
That's exactly right.
And the things that you're burying just kind of catch up with you around that time.
Well, I think you try to cope with it as many ways as you can. It kind of
Right.
like pushes it down further to the point where, and then it breaks and it can't be put down further.
Right.
And I think that's exactly what happened to me.
With everything that you've been doing, the different connections that you've made, what do you feel is kind of next in your, what's the next chapter for you?
Well, I think this began with the first documentary, My Brother Lost in Time, and now with the second documentary, Travels with George, which actually we're going to have another big screening of it in April at the Montante Center on Canisius College
cool.
campus.
I shot I think the first TEDx Buffalo at that place.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
And
it's Buffalo, right? The village of Buffalo.
And Eileen Buckley and Channel 7 is going to be sponsoring the event, and Spectrum Health is a large mental health organization putting the event on. The idea, really, seeing my life going forward, and really the one of the ideas when I made the first film about my brother, we showed the 15-minute film, and then we had a panel discussion, and I saw it as kind of like a town hall meeting on depression. So I envisioned that both films could be taken by any community in the United States.
Right.
They could have their own panel of local experts, and there could be a community discussion on depression. So that's my dream, and together with the Buffalo Depression Project, partnering with local mental health organizations, and wonderful organizations, companies like Bean Media Group.
Thanks.
I want to, at a minimum, show these films in our local community, at colleges, high schools, local businesses, because this is how change happens. It's not enough to have somebody stand up before an audience with a PowerPoint. The film is what draws people in, the story. And that sets the stage then to talk about things like solutions.
Right.
And some of them are individual solutions, ways you could take care of yourself. Some of the solutions are educating family members who have loved ones struggling with mental illness. NAMI, there's many other local organizations, but NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, has specific programs for family members, loved ones who have somebody struggling with a mental illness. And then I've said this many times throughout the U.S., but true here, the local business community. And sometimes businesses say, well, what does this have to do with me? Historically, the businesses would think, well, 9 to 5, you're here. This doesn't have to do anything with me. You take care of it before or after work. But now they know very well that it's affecting their bottom line. It's costing the U.S. economy over $100 billion a year in lost productivity, absenteeism, things like presentism. Presentism is when you're there physically at your chair, but you're not productive because the mental illness, whether it be depression, anxiety, is preventing your brain from high functioning and getting things done. So I tell businesses, law firms, organizations that, it's not only the right thing to do to address depression in the workplace, it's the smart thing to do.
Right.
It's smart to do this. So there's two good reasons why they should be doing it. So, I mean, wherever I'm welcome to come, I'm going to come and tell this story.
Now, do you have any advice for a business owner on how maybe they can change their workplace environment, their day to day, on how they can maybe, like get away from the screens? Or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what advice could you give?
One of the things I talk about when I talk about depression at the University of Buffalo, where I teach a whole class on screen time and cell phones. And they've done a lot of research on this. There's been a lot of attention about teens and cell phone use,
Right.
but it really affects everybody. And one of the basic ways it affects people is how the brain reacts to cell phone use. It triggers predominantly the visual centers of the brain, which is the back of the brain, okay? And what happens is the front of the brain becomes disengaged and not strengthened very much. And the front of the brain is involved in things like deep thinking, concentration, taking our emotions and making sense of them. Okay, so why is it? What kind of effect does that have on mental health? Dramatic effects, because with something like depression, the front part of your brain is taken offline. That's why people with depression have a very difficult time getting things done. They have a big problem with procrastination. They have a big problem with rumination. It's taken offline. So why do we see these high rates of depression in this country? Certainly not only with young people, but anybody. Too much use of the cell phone. Not that there's anything wrong with cell phones or social media. I love those things too, but there has to be some wise, conscious use of it. As I said to my daughter one time, who's 26 and a new attorney, I said, "Honey, maybe 60% of the stuff on the internet or social media is garbage."
Yeah.
So, what if we took 60% of our own time back
Right.
and used it for our own mental health and physical well-being? So it's really about becoming conscious or more conscious about how we use our time. And what happened with the students, I would have them track the time on their social media from the first day of my class to the end. And what happened is over the course of the semester, the use went down, 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 down.
Oh,
Because
okay.
the more you become aware, it's
Right.
like if you were to become aware that you're eating junk food,
Right.
you're more likely then to give some restraint to that. So it's not for the elimination at all of social media and cell phone devices. It's for being a little bit more deliberate, a little more conscious.
More top of mind.
Yeah, so one of
Right.
the things I say to the judges, I teach at the New York State Judicial Institute, and I said to the judges, but it's true for everybody, common lament is, I don't have any time to do any of these things for my mental health. And I'll say to them, that's really a lot of baloney.
Yeah.
Because if you just explore, just take a little bit of time. What if you took 10% of the time back that you use exploring, on your cell phone? You have some time to do something
Right.
that's good for yourself, your mental and physical health. So it's not true, and it's not helpful to a person to think, I don't have any time. You likely don't have any time if you're not conscious of how you're using your
Right.
time.
Yeah.
And it's something I've had to learn over the many years. And I know that when I'm in a depressive cycle, which I still have, is that I spend a lot of time mindlessly scrolling and bouncing around between websites, which can really make the depression worse.
Which is like kind of a dopamine fix, right?
Exactly, Mike. That's it. The dopamine fix. It'd be like, for example, I love ice cream. And, one of the unhealthy ways sometimes when I deal with my depression is I'll go eat a pint of ice cream.
Right.
It feels all right in the moment for a little
Right.
while, and it distracts you away from your pain.
At the moment. It's
At
just
the
like
moment.
alcohol or drugs or anything. Yeah.
It's like gambling, like a
Mhm.
slot machine,
Right.
like what those dopamine hits.
Mhm.
So it's not like I don't understand. I'm definitely not judging anybody
No,
for
yeah.
doing that. I get it. But when we're thinking ahead to solutions, I think it's an excellent step that throughout New York State, a lot of school systems are taking away cell phones.
Yeah.
I think that's, and one of the reasons they're doing it is because of that direct connection with the brain and how it interacts with cell phones and its impact not only on mental health, but the ability to think deeply.
And then you throw AI and giving instant answers on top of it. So,
Yes.
and the thing that I think is wild is that state mandates that as an employer, I have to put postings up about workers' comp. I have to put postings up about, all of the other rules and regulations, the insurance, the stuff that makes all sorts of money.
Yes.
But there's there's nothing in place that says that I have to put anything or educate at all about mental health.
Which is crazy when we
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
I think it's when we think of, it's the epidemic. It is the issue of our time, I think.
Yeah.
And these rates are not going up, they're going down. So one of the early things you said, Mike, was what can employers do? One of the things I say to all of them is that most small, mid-sized, large companies have EAPs, or employee assistance programs, which companies pay sometimes a little, sometimes a lot of money for. And they encourage, or one of the benefits is that they can contact the EAP, get mental health counseling as part of their benefit package. What I tell business leaders is most people don't do that because they don't know who these people are, what benefits they offer. It might be a 1-800 call center. It could be whatever. So when I give presentations for businesses, I say to them, who is your EAP?
Right.
And I want somebody there physically, a human being, for 5 minutes to say, we're so-and-so, we're your EAP, and we offer mental health counseling, referrals to mental health providers if you're struggling with depression or anxiety or other mental health conditions. When I talk to business leaders, they're often, they'd never thought of that before.
Right.
And really what you want to do is encourage the workplace culture. You want to develop a workplace culture that supports mental health. And there are specific steps you can take to do that. That's just one, but there are many others.
Yeah, and do you have any off the top of your head of avenues that could make it maybe a little bit easier for a business owner to connect with these EAPs?
Yeah, I think that one of the things they should do, is I think a lot of business owners or HR departments maybe know who, their EAP is, but if they were to do a little research, I think this national statistic is 80% of employees will not contact their EAP about a mental health problem. They're concerned about confidentiality is a big one. How would it affect my job? What happens if someone knows? So I think that HR people need to know who the EAP is. They need to have that EAP in their office for a visit or visit a few times a year. In terms of social media and things they put out through to their company employees, how much stuff did they put out about your EAP? Is there for you, to help you with these issues. I think a lot of companies, some are more progressive than others, but some are at the back of the pack or still trying to figure this out. But there are strategies, and I do go into workplaces locally and around the country to talk to employers. One program I do now is how to recognize depression in the workplace. So if you're HR or you're a business leader, what does depression even look like? How would I even know if someone has depression?
How do you identify it? Yeah. What are the red flags?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there are red flags, and, to recognize what they are, to recognize that, these aren't personal failures. And then it's in your best interest to work with that employee because A lot of employees, I mean, are valuable people. Look at me, I was managing partner of my law firm. I was involved in every aspect of the company.
Right.
I brought in a lot of business, and that's true for other businesses locally and nationally. Your best assets are your workers, your
Right.
employees, the people you hire.
Right.
You're investing in them.
Yeah.
So you want to address this with your employees, first of all, not only because it's the right thing to do, but it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's well. I guess I have one more question about that. Would a start be something like we have a common, a mutual relationship with mental health advocates, and they have that chat line? Would that be a good start?
Yes.
Just to share that, because I think probably the personal is what you're getting at, is like having a person in the office that can at least pop in and speak with your employees on a semi-regular basis. But if they don't have the resources for that, would that be a good start?
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of local organizations that would be wonderful, people to come in to talk about these issues. But you mentioned the Chatline and mental health advocates. They're just a fantastic organization that does so much good in our local community. And certainly, I believe it was last year or maybe 2 years ago, they, with you, Mike, and Beam Media Group, they developed this texting function. And, I kind of think of it, there are many points at which people can access help.
Right.
I think, sometimes when you're, in a depression, one of the things that goes is your energy level, and you're tired all the time. So the amount of effort to get help can even seem too exhausting. I've run a depression support group for 20 years, and sometimes it's too much. It takes too much energy for someone to even get to a support group meeting, which is an hour long. So how wonderful it is that people struggling in our community have a text function that they could text somebody to have that point of contact. Because like I said earlier, loneliness is a huge issue. And feeling, that somebody cares about you.
Right.
Somebody, is listening to you or reading your text, that is part of the healing journey.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I just have that sentiment of being heard, and you're being heard by an actual person, not a chat bot.
Yes, we want to go more in that direction. I think, a danger coming up on the horizon, it's here now, so to speak, but it's even going to evolve more, is the introduction of AI into the mental health industry. I know that there are a lot of things out there AI-driven in terms of therapy. I just heard an interview with someone yesterday on CNN who's talking about...
That scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, like having an entire relationship over time with a therapist who's AI. So I think, I guess, I talked earlier about, something is better than nothing.
Right.
But in terms of quality and the impact on one's mental health, I think that's the way to go.
Right.
Humans evolved over hundreds of thousands of years in clans and small social groups. We need touch. We need people because we're social beings. And AI is not a being; it's a technology.
I've made jokes in the past, but it has a lot of truth behind it. Is that I think like alcohol, AI should have an age limit. I think you should, because your brain isn't developed. That's why you're not allowed to drink, right, or smoke.
I agree.
And if your brain isn't developed, then you shouldn't be just getting answers fed to you without having to think about them.
I think that's true. I think a good friend of mine is a computer scientist, and we talk frequently about AI. And when he said, I think what I found kind of troubling, interesting but troubling, is that AI has the ability to go into a warehouse of information, theories on psychology. It learns your behavior. So if someone contacts an AI generated device who offers therapy, it's still an algorithm. An algorithm is not human. And I think for the person seeking the help, will know that it's an algorithm,
Right.
and that kind of defeats the purpose of connecting with other real human beings.
Right.
So it has a limited application. It's
Right.
better than nothing, but I think there's problems.
Yeah. Drake, do you have your phone on you?
Yeah.
Can you look up what GPT stands for? I know it's generated.
Dialectical behavioral therapy.
GPT.
Oh, GPT.
So, because Chat GPT, it's
Generative pre-trained transformer.
so.
I didn't know
So yeah. So it in definition, it's pre-trained. So that's the whole thing. So, I mean, we could spend hours talking about
No,
that.
but it's interesting we touched on it.
Yeah.
It is, because that is what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So I think, one of the pushbacks on AI and technology is that, we could say, these community events, what I like to call town hall meetings on depression, where we come in as a community with real people, your neighbors, your coworkers, your family members, and show one of these films or another film on mental health and have a panel discussion and a community discussion, because just like mental illness affects businesses, it affects communities,
Right.
Governments, schools.
Yeah.
So it's really something that we should all care a lot about. And my sense of it is that we all do care a lot about it.
Yeah, and I mean that's why you've put this, made just this your life's work. So what's the best way to get in touch with you if they want to bring you in as a speaker, or learn more about you?
I think the thing I found true is the best way is the new website, the Buffalo Depression Project. And on there, you'll find not only a contact sheet, but my bio, the two films I've talked about, Travels with George and My Brother Lost in Time. There's a whole page dedicated to them with the trailer. You'll find blogs from mental health experts. I'm going to launch a new podcast series about people living with depression in our community. And I think that's the easiest way to do it.
I'm just so blessed that you entered my life when you did. I learned so much from our friendship. So
I feel the same way, Mike.
I do appreciate you and everything that you're doing, and I also the time that you spent here with us today.
It was just awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Mike Bean here from Bean Media Productions. I'm going to sign off, but just also remind everybody to not only look into Dan further, but also if you haven't liked or subscribed to any of the platforms that you may be hearing or seeing us on, please don't wait because we see that there's a lot of people who are checking in on the podcast, but they're not subscribed. So you won't miss an episode if you hit that little bell. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Thank you. I subscribed yesterday. My family, we don't have a
Energetic.
dog because of allergies. My daughter's 26, my wife and I, but we're obsessed with corgis.
I've got the mop on top. I've got a
He looks so handsome. He's blessed with that great Elvis hair. We were in Barcelona last summer, and we went to the Corgi Cafe,
yeah.
where corgi owners go
Oh,
to have
oh, wow.
cappuccino and
Yeah.
coffee. Yeah, we just
Well,
love them.